right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Ending the Stigma. I am really excited about this guest tonight. He did some time in the Texas prison system, the same that I did. And just talking to him backstage, we've kind of already built a connection. We know some of the same people, some of the same offenders that are still locked up in there. Um, and we'll talk about it more, but uh, he works for Lee College and he goes into different prisons and teaches. One of the units he goes into is the unit that I did all my time on, or most of it, and the unit that I go into now to do prison ministry. So he knows a lot of the same guys there that I know. So that was really pretty cool. So I'm going to bring out Brandon and Nathan. What's going on, y'all?
First of all, y'all have a lot better cameras than I do.
Hang on just a second, guys. I gotta.
No problem.
We lost him.
It's too early in the show to lose people.
Yeah, I know, right? They're dropping like flies already. So, man, tell us. We'll wait for Nathan. We'll wait for Nathan to get back. That way he can hear it too. Man, I appreciate you coming on, dude. I've been looking forward to this since we talked about it. I think it's been scheduled for almost 2 months now.
Yeah, I think we connected in May. And there was a very particular reason that it was in May. I had a LinkedIn account. I've had a LinkedIn account for several years, but I never did anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I graduated, I posted something about it, and all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of people were sharing it, and I just didn't know what to do. All this attention all at once, and I went from like 70 connections to like 800 connections.
Yeah. And to me, that's just a solidifies or a testament to what Nathan and I are doing in the same in YouTube, but what we're doing on LinkedIn as far as trying to end the stigma associated with felons. It's been met with just overwhelming support. And then I've seen other people post stuff too, and the support there is just always amazing.
Yeah, that was surprising because like I said, I hadn't been using LinkedIn very much, and so I posted that picture of me. I took my prison ID and then in the graduation. I was still sitting in graduation when I posted. I wasn't trying to like pull a stunt. I just and it got all this attention, but the same sort of thing happened. Like all these people started messaging me in like the white collar professional jobs saying I've got a felony or I was in prison, but it's taboo. We don't talk about it, in my place of employment. And so that was the first time, because I've been out 16 years now. That was the first time I had encountered so many people with the professional jobs, messaging me, acknowledging that they had been either incarcerated or have some sort of a felony. So it's been all positive since then as well. In fact, I talked to somebody today in Oklahoma who I've connected with me on LinkedIn. So he's doing some reentry work in Oklahoma. So that was a good connection. I know many people out there.
Awesome, man. Hey, Nathan, jump over on. It's working for me. Amanda showed up and said that the LinkedIn link was not working.
I'm on it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I am too. I just wanted to make sure that it was up, that it wasn't just showing it to me because it was on my page.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Whatever you want to tell us about how much time you did, how you got into college and prison, and the importance of it, and what led you to, get advanced degrees whenever you got out.
Sure. I'm used to saying this in like the elevator 60-second speech. So you'll have to throw some questions out.
All right, that's cool.
Not great at elaborating it. So I was incarcerated when I was 16. I started running the streets, getting in trouble when I was 15, 16. Did about 13 months as a juvenile for aggravated assault. Got out, decided to join a gang back in the late 90s. Wasn't very good at it. Went to state jail. Went to Hutchins State Jail back in '99. Got out.
And Hutchins was popping in '99.
Yeah, it was more exciting. I guess exciting is the word.
For a youngster, it probably was pretty
Yeah,
exciting.
I was 18 years old, and they put me in the 6-month drug class, and I wasn't there for drugs. I was there for a stolen car, but they put me in this drug class, and you don't. It's not about parole. Nothing's gonna hold you back. So
Right.
just like you would imagine, I just was acting wild.
Yeah.
I didn't care nothing about it.
Yeah.
It was just another one of those places where I went in there and learned, more bad stuff in the day room.
Yeah. Right.
So I ended up in K building or lockup for the last few weeks before I was released, and then was out for 3 more months. That's about as long as I could handle it. And came back with an aggravated robbery and some drug charges, and got an 8-year sentence. I was 19 at that time, and ended up on Hightower, which was minimum security,
Yeah.
similar to PAC in the
Right.
early 2000s, similar to PAC. So
Right.
state jail and juvenile were more exciting than Hightower was.
Yeah.
And back then, Lee College had been offering college classes. They don't anymore on Hightower unit, but back then they had a youth offender grant
Mm-hmm.
where inmates under 23 years old, 23, 24 years old could have their education paid for, similar to a Pell Grant.
Yep.
So having an 8-year sentence, I didn't qualify to go into the bachelor's program that they offered at the University of Houston, Clear Lake on the Ramsey unit. So I just took as much college education as I could the whole time. In juvenile, I acted crazy. In state jail, I acted crazy. But the third time, it was all, I see Quincy in here. But in the third time, it was all about education. I did my GED in state jail, in state jail in '99, and then I took horticulture, landscaping trade. I took the HVAC trade,
Mm-hmm.
finished with an associate of humanities, and I had 128 college hours, enough for a bachelor's degree, but
They were all trades.
it was all associate level
Yeah.
introductory work.
Yeah.
So about 4.5 years, 4 years and 8 months, I made paroled out to Houston. So I'm actually I'm lived everywhere, all over East Texas, Palestine, Hearn, Madisonville, Leona, Centerville, but then I've also been in Grand Prairie, Arlington, Dallas.
Yeah.
But I paroled out to Houston back in 2004. Immediately enrolled in school because when I was in prison in 2001, I guess, when I was getting my education, one of the things that I decided was that was my calling, that I wanted to get educated myself so that I could be a qualified person to come back into the prison and teach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do what the Lee College instructors were doing. I wanted to do what I could to provide quality educational resources inside prisons. A lot of that was just driven by irritation, to be honest, because as I sat around and like all the conspiracy theories and the trash literature that's passed around, everybody's reading these weird conspiracy theory books, and it was just like, man, this is crazy. This is
man.
in this place, just trash literature. So that was one of the things that really drove me to be like, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can to just provide quality resources, whatever it is, if it's just, secular, academic textbooks, whatever it is. So I got out and pretty much hit the ground running. It took me forever to get through the second half of the bachelor's degree because at 24 years old, it's my first time as an adult living an independent life, because previously I was a teenager running the streets. So it took me a while to adjust, having a job, being in school, paying bills, that sort of thing. But that is the short version. I just intended to get a quality education so I could go back into the prison and teach, and things have just worked out in ways that I could not have imagined in order to get me back in.
Awesome. So where did you have your master's degree in what?
And so when I finished the bachelor's degree in counseling, I was on the board of a prison ministry, Less Than the Least Prison Ministries.
Mm-hmm.
And the dean of Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary's Houston campus was also on that board. And so, I was encouraged to go meet with him and potentially enroll in the seminary. I told him, hey, the reason I want to get an education is so I could go back into the prisons and teach. And at that time, the seminary didn't have any involvement with the prison system, but I enrolled, and 3 months after enrollment, in my first semester, someone arranged a visit to the Angola prison in Louisiana, where they had had a seminary program for over a decade, and asked the dean and people in Southwestern if they would be interested in starting a seminary-like program here in the state of Texas, modeled after the one they did in Louisiana. And Southwestern was all about it. And so the dean emailed me and he said, you're never going to believe this, but we've just been asked to start this seminary. It'll be a fully accredited bachelor's degree program, free of charge, to men serving long sentences. The idea being that the people who are enrolled in the college will then, once they graduate, be sent out in teams across the state of Texas to serve the community of the prison. So the idea was culture change, as opposed to most of the educational programs offered in prison, which focus on short timers, giving them trades like welding or truck driving. We were focusing on people with big time who could have some sort of real transformative effect on the culture.
And that to me is just, it makes a whole lot of sense, man. Because, even if somebody that's got big time goes and gets their bachelor's degree, but they don't get out for 10 years, they're just sitting on a piece of paper. But this gives them a chance to actually use what they've learned now.
Yeah.
And gives them purpose and meaning. You know what I mean?
Right. It doesn't make sense unless you plan to have a job in welding while you're serving time in prison. It doesn't make sense to put somebody who's got 15 years and takes parole in a welding class, but there's nothing at all holding him back from putting him in history programs and psychology and philosophy and theology, things that he can actually contribute while he is incarcerated. So I mean, that was a sort of a vision that I had, and then independently of me, there were these other things going on with the seminary, and we just converged at the right time.
Yeah.
And so the dean said, I want you involved somehow. So they hired me initially as an admin because I didn't have a master's. I couldn't teach.
Right.
But they hired me as an administrator, and then eventually I was able to teach. And I really served as like a liaison between the faculty and staff of the seminary and the prison, because the dean was the only one who had ever had any involvement in jail or prison environment. So they were totally green walking back there in the prison and like managing the relationships between them and the students, but then them and the guards, the officers, and chaplaincy and volunteers. And it was a very, very busy few years. Serving as a translator and liaison between everybody until everybody sort of got on the same page.
Yeah, cool. So how long did you do that?
So I did that for 6.5 years.
Okay.
And I was pursuing my master's during that time. And so the school was paying for my education. Once I actually got hired on full time, then they were paying for my education. So I was able to take a lot of extra classes there, and I postponed my graduation so that I could graduate with the students. So the first cohort who graduated with their bachelor's degree, I waited, postponed my graduation so that I could walk with them inside the Darrington prison. So in 2015,
that's awesome.
I finished my Master of Divinity in Theology, and our first 33 students got their Bachelor of Biblical Studies.
Right on.
Nice.
So where did you get your doctorate?
So that is from University of St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. Okay.
There were a lot of factors that led me to do the Doctorate of Education. So it's an EDD as opposed to a PhD. There's some differences there, but it was face-to-face as opposed to being online. It was at the University of St. Thomas in particular. I have a real affinity for Thomistic philosophy, ethics, Aristotle, that whole tradition. And it was 3 years as opposed to 5 to 8 years, which is the case for PhDs. So it was also like half the price of what a PhD would be. So
Right.
it made a lot of practical sense for me to go for the Doctorate of Education as opposed to the PhD. So I did that and graduated this past May.
Awesome.
That's when I
Congratulations,
got
man.
the attention on LinkedIn for the post that I made about my graduation day.
Right. And that's what we were talking about that backstage beforehand, was just the overwhelming support that Nathan and I have gotten making posts like that. And then also your post, and I've seen other people's posts where they've just said, look, I've committed a felony. This is what I'm doing now. If I just simple stuff, nothing, it can be anything from getting your doctorate to I have a job making enough money to support my family.
Mhm.
Right.
But this, all of that is a success in my book. And just the support that LinkedIn has given them overall, just is awesome, really.
Learning about the ecosystem of LinkedIn is something that I need to learn more about. Just after hearing you speak to some of your guests and the connections you've made through LinkedIn and the kind of platform that it models. It's only been 3 months now since I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
I've been somewhat involved in it. I haven't taken advantage of everything, all of the ways that you can network and connect there. But that's mostly what I've encountered also is support. Because I've been in the religious realm involved in ministry, I haven't had a lot of pushback because of
Yeah.
my felonies in terms of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't had to face a lot of that in terms of my job, but I have had to face a lot of the setbacks, like in terms of housing,
Right.
insurance, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Jobs, not so much. I've just been blessed to be in a role where talking about my past is actually what people want to know about.
Right.
In my role as a transition specialist.
So yeah, you just transitioned right into exactly what I was fixing to ask you about what you do at Lee College now. What Lee College does as far as the units they go into and what your role is there.
Yeah. So at the seminary, I served as an administrator, and then I was eventually teaching. I was teaching things like ethics, theology, and world religions, academic study skills. But here at Lee College, my main job, my full-time job, is as a transition specialist. And
Okay.
transition just means, in our context, a reentry specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And I do still teach philosophy, ethics, and some academic studies classes, but my main role is as a reentry specialist. So Lee College has been in the prison system since 1965.
Oh, wow.
And as far as I can tell, we are the oldest consecutively running school in the prison system in the country. I mean, there's been schools involved in the prison system since the 19th century, but none of them stuck. They'd come in, they'd come out, they'd leave.
Mm-hmm.
But Lee College has consistently been involved in the Texas prison system since the 1960s. And they've been on multiple units at one time. And so back when I was in school, or when I was in school while incarcerated, they were on more units than we are now. But right now we're on 8 different prison units, central to the Huntsville area in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Or in Navasota, that's where you're at. And then we started a program for the ladies over on the Plain State Jail facility in Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
So with my reentry work, I have two basic divisions. For one, none of the college and prison programs in Texas have a reentry person like myself, mostly because TDCJ did not want the colleges having any sort of regular relationships with students upon release from prison. That's the establishing a relationship and sort of thing. So it was just not the norm. None of the colleges had any plans for reentry or budgeting for it. But our associate vice president, Donna Zuniga, worked it out where Lee College would be the first one to have somebody hired full time to focus on reentry. And since I've begun, TDCJ appreciates what we're doing and has encouraged some of the other colleges to get on board. So hopefully what we'll see is that of the dozen or so colleges involved in the prison system here in Texas, others are going to get on board and start, adding a reentry component.
Yeah.
So half of what I do is on the inside, the other half is on the outside. On the inside, I answer all this mail.
Yeah.
The people on the inside, right? And whatever they ask in terms of reentry, I try to provide them with. So if they need, a list of halfway houses in Houston or Dallas or Amarillo, then I'll
So
find that.
let me interrupt you here real quick. Do you do that only for Lee College students?
Yeah, in my
Okay.
role with Lee College, it's
Yeah.
only for Lee College students.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes, okay.
Otherwise, I'd be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
And
that's,
I do get a lot of the Echo, the prison
yeah,
newspaper, the Echo did a piece
yeah,
about me, and then I started getting mail from all over Texas. So I really have to, have some boundaries. It's mostly
yeah,
for Lee. There are some exceptions, like the seminary students who are now out,
right.
like we mentioned. Um, then when they need some things, I'll help them out as well. But it's really just for Lee College
Yeah,
students. So I answer their mail. If they want to know about job openings, in welding or whatever trade that they're taking. If they want to know about educational programs because they want to pursue education when they get out, or like Nathan with Adams State, if they want to try and continue their education while they're still here, I'll send them information on Adams State and try to get them connected so they can finish a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree. So pretty much anything they ask me, helping figure out, where they can get their ID, when they get out, business plans.
mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of that. I go inside, I talk to them, introduce myself, tell them what I can do. And
And
then I
that's so important too, man, because you take guys, that have been running the streets and been in and out of prison that decide they want to change, they want to get their education, but they have no clue what to do with it or how to pursue it when they get
Mm-hmm.
out.
yeah,
Like none whatsoever.
yeah, some of these guys have been locked up for 30 years.
Yeah,
It's
man.
not uncommon that I come across somebody who's been locked up for more than 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
And just they don't know what to do. They don't have anybody left who's willing to support them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things I've done is develop resources that clear up like stereotypes and myths. I don't know if you ever got the letter when you were locked up. Maybe you too, Nathan, when you were in Colorado. The letter that's spread around the prison system that says when you get out, go to the Social Security office and tell them you just got out of prison and they're going to cut you a check for benefits.
Yeah.
And go to the
Yeah.
vocational rehab office. They tell you to go to all these different government places because they're all going to cut you a check. So I wrote a pamphlet and I just took that letter and I just went line by line and researched it, to provide truth to it.
Yeah.
And, Lee College
Mm-hmm.
printed it up, and we distribute that to our students to dispel all of the false hopes and the
Yeah.
rumors that spread. So there are things that are beneficial for them when they get out. There are programs, but most of the stuff that circulates the prison is just rumors and
Oh man.
bad ideas.
Rumors and bad ideas, dude. That's the
Right.
best way I've ever heard it put.
Then when they get out, they can contact me, and that is a whole other animal. So one of the things I do at this spot on 5:30 on Wednesdays, we have an alumni call. So they're watching right now.
Oh, nice.
Instead of doing the alumni call, I told them to log in to this. But they can just get on, and wherever they're at in the state of Texas, if they got some question about an ID, getting a driver's license, job openings, somebody was asking about how to get a DBA, another guy, needed a particular software program, like whatever it is, we're just there as a group to talk through
Mm-hmm.
how to help them manage those issues. And I had to do it like that because Lee College students can be paroled all over the state of Texas. So we're
Right.
not centralized in the Gulf Coast or we got students everywhere.
Yeah.
So they
So
can
you've got
contact.
to have resources everywhere then,
Yeah, that's
or
one of
be
the
able to
drawbacks.
research it. Yeah.
That's one of the drawbacks is that when I got the job, the idea was really that I would be more like a placement service. a
Mm-hmm.
job placement service, but I underestimated the fact that these students would be going all over Texas, and we
Mm-hmm.
all 8 different associate's degrees, one of which is business management, which is just an open door for, there's no way that I could establish MOUs and partnerships with, companies all over the state of Texas in these trade areas, such that when a guy gets out and goes to Edinburgh, he calls me and I'm supposed to be like, yeah, I know a guy.
Right.
I'm going to hook you up. So what it's really become is more like a referral as opposed to a placement, because it's just
Yeah.
so broad.
Yeah. And for those of y'all that don't know, Huntsville is in East Texas, about 2 hours from where I am, just north of Houston. Edinburgh is down, all the way down on
Yeah,
on the border.
one tip of Texas,
It's Mexico, basically.
yeah, it's a 12-hour trip by
Yeah.
itself from one end to one end. So you got
Yeah.
somebody that's 400, 500 miles away.
Yeah.
Whatever I have over here in the Huntsville area is just not adequate.
To me, like, and I'm sure Nathan can attest to this too, or would feel the same way. Like, I didn't even know until I talked to you the other day. You had texted me or in the DM or something that was actually what you did at Lee College. I thought I thought all you did was teach.
Mm.
But the fact that there's a college that is doing that is unfreaking believable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had someone post a comment on the post I did this morning, or maybe the one I did 2 days ago. She said more colleges should be more worried about their alumni instead of the alumni worried about their colleges. It was Jessica Hill. I don't know if you know her, Nathan.
Yeah.
She was like, that needs to happen. I was like,
Right.
yeah, it's awesome.
There are
True.
so I was out for 13 years before I ever met anyone who had been incarcerated and was also pursuing higher education. But when I got the job here at Lee, because at the seminary I was kind of in a silo. But when I
Yeah.
got the job here at Lee, I was introduced immediately to people all over the country who are formerly incarcerated and now have, PhDs or lawyers. And so I'm a part of quite a few networks, and there are New Jersey, California, Washington. Their prison systems do have pretty strong reentry programs attached to the colleges as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to state systems. Um, so there's some stuff going on in Colorado. There's a program at Red Rocks Community College in Denver, the Gateway program.
Mm-hmm.
There are
I've heard of
different
that.
places, but here in Texas right now we're the only one attached to a college and prison program. But hopefully in the next few years that'll change. And reentry being attached to the college is a whole other animal. What kind of services to be provided and how you do that, and is
Right.
there's
Now, one thing I want to, at least from my understanding with the Gateway program at Red Rocks Community College, is that it's not even specifically geared towards reentry. It's helping guys after they get out get enrolled in college.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So kind of a different thing.
Right, and that's what I was getting at with my comment about the complexity, because one of so when I was meeting with people from across the country who are involved in these college and prison programs that have a reentry component,
Mm-hmm.
their focus was getting people back in school. And that is a part of what I do, but that was not my main thinking. My main thinking was getting them a job, basically, and helping them out transition back into society. Enrolling in school was one component, but you're right. Many of the programs that I've encountered, their main goal was to get people back in school, and then everything else was tangential to that in some way. And so it would be like through the school that they tried to help with housing and jobs and whatnot. So it's a very different way of looking at the reentry process. But you're right. It's about helping them get into school and pursue their education.
Which is still awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they provide a lot of great resources and they help guys. From my understanding, because again, they're up in Denver and I'm in Colorado Springs, so I haven't had. And besides that, by the time that I was introduced to what they're doing, I had already earned my bachelor's degree, so it was kind of a moot point for me. But from my understanding, is they provide a lot of resources to help make college possible for guys who are in this kind of situation that we've discussed, where everything's kind of in flux. So they help guys get transportation to and from campus. They help guys get a computer if they need it. They help them navigate the resources that they need to figure out financial aid. Just a lot of the things that you don't even think about when it just says, oh yeah, I could go do a college course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for some people, it's not just as easy as, oh, I can go take a class.
Right. So some of that is wrapped into what Lee College is able to do. If for some reason a student doesn't finish, their education with us, they can complete their education online, or transitioning into either a community college that's out there where they're at, or going into the university. And now that you said it, Dallas Community College, I was in touch with them just the other day. They're starting to do something with a grant that will focus on reentry also. But the reason I brought that is because they mentioned getting bus vouchers and helping with the transportation issue, getting to and from school and work.
So I want to go back to the seminary for a minute, just because I know guys that have been through it, and then it's something you said that really made me stop and think. The show is all about ending the stigma associated with felons, and I think one of the biggest stigmas that felons have is, the whole gang affiliation thing, and everybody's in a gang, and once you're in a gang, you can't ever get out, and all this kind of stuff. But you and I were talking backstage beforehand, and in that seminary program, and it's true, a lot of the gang members have done crazy stuff. They get time stacked on time, so they got a lot of time in front of them, but then they get tired of it.
Yeah.
And you said that y'all had a lot of gang members or former gang members that were in the program now.
Oh yeah.
In the seminary program.
Yeah.
So just as a point to tell everybody, it's not always all about the gangs. It's not always all about that whole prison mentality all the time. Guys change when they're in there, and they want to do something to promote that change, even though the worst of the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and by focusing on guys with long sentences, we did get, the kind of crimes that fall into the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there were a lot of former gang members there, and who left all of that, on decent terms and were respectable people.
Yeah.
And so that was powerful in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because of the model that they represented to others after that change. And that's a whole discussion unto itself about focusing on people with long sentences, regardless of the crime, because the people who have the long time in prison are the ones who create and maintain the status quo. They maintain the culture. They have an interest in maintaining the culture in such and such a way. And if the heart of that population is changed through education, through giving them, a new direction, new purpose, whatever it may be, that's going to trickle down to the rest of the population. Because those guys who have been there for the longest this is one of the things I was talking about with my friend Marcus the other day. They do serve as role models and mentors to the young guys, the people with short time, the new people. They're looking to them, and if they're the convicts and the gangsters, well, that's the kind of culture that's just going to perpetuate itself. So here in Texas, just across the state, the prisons are not, in my mind, the culture is not as violent as it was 20 years ago. You don't have to do things that you would have had to do 20 or 30 years ago. And so having somebody with a life sentence who is reading Plato and Aristotle and doing study groups in the day room, that's not unusual, really.
Right.
It's not something that would be taboo.
Right.
So I really enjoyed working with all of those guys, and we know some of the same guys that I really enjoyed.
Damn, I say this every live. I'll have a question while somebody's talking, and I don't write it down, thinking I'll remember it, and then it leaves my mind. So Lee College has an associate's program, and they also offer trade schools, different trades, right?
Yeah.
So what what kind of struggles, or are there any, like with you helping guys whenever they come out getting a job? What kind of places are you sending them? I mean, you don't have to mention company names or anything if you don't want to, but what kind of jobs are you helping these guys find?
Yeah, it's pretty random because it depends on what trade they got while
Mm-hmm.
they're here. But then also a lot of the times they may not end up in a trade-based job immediately after prison. They're just going to get whatever they can get
Right.
to get the good job. So there's not a particular company or anything that I'm sending them to, because again, our students are dispersed
All
all
over.
over Texas. But one of the things that I've done recently is, so two of the guys that I was locked up with 15 years ago went into the HVAC industry. They started their own HVAC company. It was really successful. They recently sold it, and they're very wealthy now. So they were on one of these weekly calls with some of the alumni, and we had another guy. He's listening because he popped in earlier. He started a business in North Houston back in August, and we had another guy who started a business in Lufkin, Texas, and another guy it just so happened that there were several guys who had only been out of prison for less than a year or two were starting businesses. And on the same call was my friend Chris, who had just successfully sold the business. And I said, well, we need to start an entrepreneurship group.
Mm-hmm.
Prison entrepreneurship program has been around for a long time, where they do something very similar to that. And so
Right.
now that's one of the things we're doing, is having some weekly meetings where our students who are entrepreneurs are getting together with some of the others who have already been successful as business owners, because that's one of those jobs where whatever your crime is, however much time you did, it doesn't matter if you're going to do your own thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't have hard numbers because we were only in touch at this point with several hundred of our graduates, but many of them do pursue that route, going the business route, as opposed to going directly into the HVAC or the welding. But HVAC, welding, automotive mechanics, those are not trades which have historically had a problem with the criminal.
True. Yeah.
So we do logistics, truck driving, welding, microcomputer applications, automotive, HVAC, cabinet making, horticulture, landscaping.
And
Then
these are,
go ahead.
so like with the HVAC and the automotive mechanics and all that, they get certifications in that, right?
Yeah, they each have different certifications. So with the automotive, it would be ASE. Oh, we have a culinary arts program, so they get the Safe Serve. With HVAC, it would be what is it, the EPA. Each of them have different certifications that they're able to get.
And that's cool, because when I was at PAC, we had HVAC and construction carpentry, but it wasn't done through a college. It was done through Wyndham.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't much, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't really any kind of certification except a certificate from Wyndham, which for those of y'all that don't know, it's Wyndham Independent School District. It's just like any other school district in the state, more or less, but it's specific to all the prisons. All the prisons are Wyndham. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Brandon? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's an independent school district of the Texas prison.
yeah, exactly.
That's something that I was glad to see the state of Colorado kind of shifted towards in the time that I was in, is a lot of the trade programs that they had, guys were complaining, guys who had been out and came back. They're like, yeah, I left with a plumbing certificate or I left with an HVAC certificate, but companies out there don't care when you hand them a certificate from DOC. It doesn't mean anything to them. It's not an actual certification. It's just
right.
But by the time that I'd left, a lot of these programs, they ended up partnering with Pueblo Community College. So guys were actually getting transcripts from PCC saying, they completed X number of courses and hours. So.
Yeah, you're right. That does have, that is a huge benefit when there's no distinction between any of the Lee College students.
Right.
That was a concern I had, while I was a student locked up, was, when I get out, number one, is the college going easy on us in here, in terms of their standards of academic rigor? Will I be able to make it in the Free World University? But then the other was whether or not this degree is acceptable.
Who is that? Not, it's the perfect
No, absolutely.
definition of beer. I don't even know who Polar Nights is, man.
No clue.
All right, awesome.
My aunt was on there earlier. Cynthia Leach was on there, and Quincy was on there.
Yeah,
So having the college name behind it surely does help. There's no distinction between where you got it. You're just a Lee College student, whether it was in prison or not.
yeah, that's the way Blinn was when it was at PAC. That's what they told us is, you show up with your transcripts and it says Blinn College.
Yeah.
There's no distinction. Even if you go back to Blinn to finish or whatever, that comment still got me cracking up. There's no distinction in it. So it doesn't say, Blinn College PAC 1 campus or something like that. It just says
And
Blinn College.
that's the same thing with my, my bachelor's degree through Adams State. I did the whole thing while I was in prison, but nowhere on my transcript, nowhere on my degree will it even say distance learning or not. It's just an Adams State degree. So.
Yeah, awesome.
They're from Norway.
Yeah, from Norway. Yeah. So I don't know, Brandon, if you know this or not. I'm streaming to YouTube, but I'm also streaming to Twitch, which
I'm unfamiliar with Twitch. I've heard of it. I don't know.
I'm not real familiar with it. It's a big gaming kind of streaming place, but I can stream up to 3 different places at once with the service level I have with StreamYard. So a lot of people like watching on Twitch because the delay isn't as long and it's a little bit smoother. So a lot of people on LinkedIn are on Twitch. So that's why I stream there. But it's open game, public, whoever can see it. So you never know who's going to drop in.
There was the guy who showed up on your
I was
with Chelsea.
Yeah, I had Chelsea Robertson on here, and this random dude just pops in from YouTube and he's like, "Where am I? What are y'all talking about?"
He's like, "I was searching for Chelsea Football Club clips, and it came up with this." So
yeah, because the title said, "So I did a thing live with Chelsea Robertson." So somehow the algorithm pushed it, and he stayed for the whole show. I don't even remember what we talked about, but he stayed for the whole show.
Well, the beard comment was pretty tame, so
yeah, yeah. Oh man! So tell us a little bit about the alumni call you have. Like, what kind of stuff y'all talk about, the support, or just kind of? Because I know some of your guys are watching here.
Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about that. What that's all about.
Sure. So it could be anything reentry related. So I've had one call where there was 3 people on there who were all fresh out and were trying to get their driver's license. Of course, during COVID in the last 18 months, the DMVs and a bunch of government offices are not open. And so trying to get your driver's license in Texas, they might tell you you can't take the driving test for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you just got out and you're on parole, that's really, that hurts. And so one of the guys was explaining, to the others just how he was able to get it quicker by basically going to the county, next to him and showing up every morning to the different ones, just asking them if somebody doesn't show up for their appointment or whatever, can I get in? And so he was able to get into his, to get a driver's license within like 30 days as opposed to the 6 months window that they had. Because I think this was back in December and they told him to wait till April or May. So it could be something like that. It could be housing. We talk about, getting into an apartment versus renting a house, just different ways to manage that, background checks. Or it could be something like a job, literally just that organic network. Like somebody just got out, they want to get into welding. Oh, I know so-and-so who's over here. Maybe we can call them and put them in touch. So that is one of the things that we're doing right now. There was somebody, hopefully he's tuned in, listening. He's in the North Houston area who needed a job in that area.
Yeah.
So, housing, parole issues, identification issues, or starting a business, which is the other one that led to the entrepreneurship group. Anything related to reentry.
Right. I'm trying to figure something out here. Y'all bear with me just a second. I can't figure it out. Nathan, do you know how to you know how to block someone? There's a way to do it. I don't know how to do it, man. The Polar Nights, dude, we kind of try to keep this PG, man. So I'd appreciate it if you kind of keep your comments, PG or G rated, for the whole world to see. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I accidentally clicked on it. I was trying to figure out how to. Anyway, you got me thrown all the way off my game now, man.
Alumni call and reentry.
Yeah, reentry. So y'all are in 8 colleges, 9 units, 8 units.
Right
Eight
now, we're in
units.
8 different prison units.
Eight different prison units. And do you teach just at PAC?
Nah, it just depends. So that's just what I do as an adjunct in the evenings. It's just up to
Okay,
whatever
just
the schedule.
wherever they need it. Yeah.
And so this semester was a PAC. Yeah, I also on the Luther unit, which is right there down the street.
Yeah.
An apprenticeship, a reentry class. So I put together a whole reentry course that can be run from 6 to 12 weeks. And so I try to offer that on the different units on a regular basis. So I literally just go in there and host, and I treat it like an academic college class where it's a 3-hour window once a week.
Mm-hmm.
We will talk about all the different things related to reentry.
Yep.
Family issues, transportation, housing, legal issues, technology, the whole 9.
So I'm going to, and so let's talk about your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get started doing that? And just tell us a little bit about the content on there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that's an idea that I had been thinking about for a few years, but I did not plan to do anything with it for a while because I was trying to learn more about audio, video, software editing, lighting, the whole thing to make decent YouTube content. And I'd been practicing for a few months, and then when I got all this attention on LinkedIn, I thought, well, I'll probably never get this much attention again. So if I'm going to do something, I need to do it now. So I just started putting out videos. And so they're not that great. The evolution of those videos has gone from me recording stuff in front of my webcam to then using my iPhone, and now I have some nice mics and lighting and things like that. So it's getting better as we go.
Yeah.
Just recently, I've done a couple of interviews, and I've got a string of interviews lined up over the next several months. So it's evolving. I'm getting better at it in terms of mechanics, but the content is largely based around reentry issues. So I have, one of the earlier videos I did was talking about felony-friendly employers, different things to think about when it comes to looking for felony-friendly employers, or housing advice, what guys can do with their free time, especially if they have a background in things like drug and alcohol addiction or gambling. What some options they can fill in with their free time. So just issues that I think are important for those who are coming out. And with the interviews, the idea is really to focus on success stories. But like you and I were talking about earlier, success is not necessarily measured by finances.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody being wealthy, that seems to be like the go-to, is that if somebody is wealthy, then they are successful. But my intention is to focus on people who have pursued education and are probably broke from pursuing education.
Right.
But they pursued education, or are active in the community, are small business owners, people who are family men. Just success in all of those ways. At a minimum, what that means is that we have not gone back to prison.
Mm-hmm.
But maximally, what it means is we're not only not going back to prison, but we're productive citizens.
Yeah.
We're fathers. We are teachers. We are, all of these different things. So that's really the focus, is going to be to look at success stories, so that we are not, like Danny Murillo said, we're not the boogeymen that people
Exactly. Yeah. So what I like about it, and this show is kind of bad for YouTube because on the replay anyway, because not many people are going to sit down and watch an hour YouTube video.
Right.
But what I like about yours is it's 7, 8, 9 minute videos. You know, they're not real long, but you pack a lot of stuff in there, and it's still short enough where somebody scrolling or sees it or whatever, they can grab it and watch it real quick without taking up too much time of their day. You know what I mean?
I hope so. Like I said, I'm trying to make it visually more compelling because
Yeah, no, man, they look
I have a
great.
lot of information and you know, people want to see moving pictures.
Yeah.
But there's only so much I can do, you know, on my own in the evenings after work to make
Yeah.
something look nice. But it's getting better.
Yeah, no, definitely. It looks real good.
I've got
And
plenty of things to say. I just need to say it in a way that will keep people's attention and be beneficial.
yeah, and y'all check it out.
Yep, it's just on YouTube at Brandon's commentary.
Yeah, I dropped the link to the comments on this post. There's a link to the comments on LinkedIn. And I'll put it, and there's a link in the description on YouTube where this will be after the replay, but I just dropped it where Twitch can see it too.
Yeah, I've intended to put a new trailer, you know, the trailer that's on there. I just sat in front of my webcam and said something when my brother was standing right there saying, hurry up. You know, it was really just put together pretty quickly, but, you know, I'll get better as I learn. And
Yeah.
got quite a few things to say to help people with just a number of reentry issues. So one of the things I uploaded this week was a conversation with my friend Tracy Williams. He might be watching this also. And we're just talking about family issues, things that people need to think about when someone is getting out of prison. And a lot of times when I'm talking to these videos, I'm talking to people who are currently incarcerated. Because, for example, I've had people from Washington State ask if they could play the videos in the women's prison that they're at. I had somebody out in Beaumont ask me if they could play it in the Styles unit. So they are actually reaching people in the prison. So I'm talking to people, you know, who are currently incarcerated or who are just released or their family and friends. And when it comes to family issues, I talk about like, you know, details maybe no one thought about. So like privacy. When I got out, I lived with my aunt. She didn't have any kids or anything. It was just me and her. And, you know, now I've got people calling the house. They're coming to the house. There's mail coming to her house. This is all new to her. Strangers showing up. Maybe she's not really comfortable knowing who these people are coming to her house. Like that's something that nobody maybe really thinks about. And she still gets junk mail in my name 13 years after I, you know, moved out. So really practical, down to earth issues that people should think about.
Yeah, I think the last one you did or one, was it the one you did with Tracy talking about transportation?
Yeah, like because somebody says they want to help you out getting you where you need to go, but if they have kids and a job and they're in school and they got doctor appointments, then they may not be able to help you out as much as you thought they could.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. You know, they're just, you know, our family and friends are doing what they can because they want to help us however they can, but it doesn't always work out as planned. And if we're coming out of prison, we have to have an appropriate mindset of gratitude primarily.
Yeah.
And doing our part to try and make things work. You never can anticipate what's going to happen.
Yeah, right on. And so it's Brandon's commentary on YouTube. Nathan just dropped the link again on LinkedIn. Y'all go check it out, man. I watched several of the videos, and like he said, it's just real world, solid advice to people getting out. So if you know somebody who has, you know, a family member or a friend that's locked up and he's fixing to get out, he or she, this would be a great place for them to go watch some stuff just to kind of help them know what to prepare for and what to think about. Because you don't think about these things, especially if you've never. Hang on, I want to shout out real quick. Hang on. My mother just joined live for the first time ever. She usually watches the replay. This is my mom. Hi, Mom. That is awesome. Yeah. So it's just, you know, this is something, and my mom will say this too. There was so much you don't know. Especially somebody that's never been in prison before and gets out, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what kind of stipulations you're going to have. You know, just all the stuff, you know, like I didn't have anything when I got out. Mom had to go to the store and get, socks and underwear and just some t-shirts and gym shorts and a couple pair of jeans and just some basic stuff to get me through the next few days till I could make it. Because I was on a monitor when I got out. My parole officer was at a training the day after, which was a Friday, would have been a Friday. So I couldn't go report, or no, I got out on a Friday. It was either I got out on a Thursday and she was in training on Friday, or I got out on Friday and she was in a training on Monday. So either way, I had a long period of time before I could go report, which means I was stuck in the house for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So she had, just right off the muscle, she had to go spend like $250 or $300 at Walmart just to get me through those next few days.
Yeah.
And that's stuff you don't really think about while you're locked up, just all the extra stuff.
There was a group I was a part of that was trying to work together. There was a group that was in Houston trying to get organizations together who could streamline the reentry experience and be like a go-to or a hub for people in the Houston area. And the main thrust of the meetings were trying to get people jobs. And that is a good and beneficial thing. And so I kept bringing up, well, what about transportation, getting up from their house to an appointment for parole, or to their drug classes that are mandated, or to get to the interview. What about clothes? And he just kept saying, well, if we get them a job, all that other stuff will fall in place. And I was like, no, you're thinking about this backwards. I have to have an outfit, and I have to have a mode of transportation to get to that interview, and get to the job for the first few weeks until I have some money. Like, you're thinking about this backwards. Yeah, getting them a job is going to help fill these things in, but I need some sort of communication, an email, a phone. There's all these material needs that we have that many people don't think, they're not putting 2 and 2 together, like in terms of logistics and what is needed to survive for those first few weeks. And it gets frustrating, especially now. Like, I'm not a tech person, and like my friend Tracy, spent a couple of decades, he's pretty tech savvy already, but trying to help people understand emails and spam and the smartphones. More than one occasion in the last 4 months, I have called somebody on a landline, from the office to a landline in their house, and then called them from my cell phone to their cell phone that their parent or their brother or somebody got them, and told them, okay, you see that green thing that's lighting up right now? Like, slide your finger across it.
Yeah.
Then tap it, and you'll see like a FaceTime. I've walked people through getting onto a Zoom call so that we could, talk face to face. The gas pump, debit cards, just a slew of things. I have to encourage people. They have to understand the internet. I've talked to several people. One of them out in Jasper, Texas. He was just like, well, my son has internet, and but I'm not real fond of it. And I said, man, look, you have to now. Maybe you could have got away with that 10 years ago. You can't get away with it now. You're gonna have to figure it out, man. You're gonna have to sit down and get an email and figure it out.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time helping people get assimilated to the tech environment also.
And just to put that into perspective, I did a little over 8 years. I got locked up in 2008, and the iPhone had just come out. Nobody had them yet. Everybody still had flip phones. So from 2008 until 2016, think how much a smartphone changed from the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 6. The 7 came out, because that's what my first smartphone was, an iPhone 7. So I had to learn that. There was no easing into it.
Right.
So think about an email, like email wasn't used in 2008. Nobody did it for anything, just a little bit here and there or whatever. Keep track of your buddy across the country, because, but I get out and everything is done online. Literally, like, everything is done online.
Yeah, I fell in 2005, and I mean, there was no such thing as a smartphone. I mean, Palm Pilots were still a thing in 2005.
Yeah.
And I get out, and we're in the car driving back to Colorado Springs, and I'm like, hey, I'm supposed to call this number to check in and report. And my mom's like, okay, here's the phone. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we had cell phones before then, but imagine guys that have been locked up since the 80s or 90s,
Hmm.
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
even seen a cell phone, maybe a bag phone.
That's one of the weak spots in the reentry that I do for the guys on the inside. I usually wait till they're on the outside because I'm limited as to what I can train them in and introduce them to while they're
Right.
inside as far
Hmm.
as
Yeah,
technology is concerned.
definitely can't take a cell phone in the Texas prison
But
system.
Nope.
not so much the phone, but just that is what they're asking for. Like, can you like show us what's out there, what we need to be aware of, what
Hmm.
kind of things do we need to have access to, when we get out. So technology is a huge part of their survival in 2021, where it wasn't, in times
Right.
past.
Yeah, and there's not, if you get out and you don't have somebody like you or another resource to kind of ease them into it or walk them through it. And yeah, this is how you answer a smartphone.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Because I remember my mom trying to explain a smartphone to me. She was like, "Yeah, you don't just it's a screen and you have to unlock it and you have to push the phone icon to get to where you have to dial or go to your contacts." And I'm like, "I just want to open the phone and dial the number."
mhm,
Right. Yeah.
Like it was
How
more
do
than I
you
could
use the
comprehend.
phone part?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. How do you use the phone part? And
yeah,
now nobody talks on the phone; they text message.
Right.
Like it was a total mind blowing experience for me.
yeah.
Hmm.
So like the comment down there from Amanda says about applying for jobs, like everything,
Yeah.
done online. So one of the things that I've done is we talk about resumes. If they haven't created a resume, like helping them get one created, but they need one because every site they go to in terms of a job is going to ask them to provide, upload some sort of resume. They're going to
Right.
have to learn how to reformat it for different, platforms. So that is another really tedious thing. I tell them, I'm like, look, on day two, day one, we go through this whole process, but on day two, you just need to psych yourself out that you're going to go find a place that has a computer and internet, and you're going to sit down with some coffee, and this is what you're going to do for the next few hours is just try to figure out these steps. Because if you just keep blowing it off, you're going to run into a
Yeah.
big problem just in a number of
Hmm.
ways. So
Yeah.
I took somebody to a library one time. He had done like 30 years and took him to the library, sat him down at the computer, created an email, kind of tried to walk him through some basic steps. And they had like computer literacy classes there that he could enroll in. And so the librarian realized what was happening, what his situation was, and she sort of took ownership to come on and help him from there. But that is, I just, email and internet is something that they have to have, and
Yeah.
I helped them figure that out real quick.
Well, Brandon, we are at the hour mark, and I know you've got stuff you've got to do whenever you get off of here. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. If nobody else has any questions, last minute questions, they need to comment them real quick because we're about to shut it down. Man, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was like really eye opening to me. I didn't know because I told you my experience with college inside was not very long because they
Yeah,
took it out of the unit I was at. I didn't realize that there was a college doing this kind of stuff. I didn't realize that they had a reentry uh, specialist or whatever your title is, but somebody to help the guys coming out.
yeah.
Um, that's just amazing to me. Like that still just blows me away.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
awesome.
yeah. I mean, I really enjoy doing it. It's
And it
brought.
makes sense to hire somebody that has been inside before and knows how to navigate, knows the rules. You know the rules before you get in. I mean, you know what to expect with count times and stuff like that. So it's just a perfect example of um, somebody getting out and making something of themselves and proving that, like you said, we're not the boogeyman.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I thank you for having me on. I was, I mean, when you originally reached out to me, there was so many other people. Like, and then when I listened to you guys, actually, you're ending the stigma one the other day. I was like, oh, this is going to be a great
Yeah.
show, a great interview. I was stoked at that point. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know real quick before we get off of here, I know you had said something yesterday or earlier today. I don't remember about going live and stuff. If you ever want to jump on a call, or you want any tips or tricks, or want to know more about
Yeah, that's another
all this,
tech thing that
man,
I need to learn more about.
yeah, man, like they make these things. This is a browser-based program. They're really dummy-proof. It's in about 4 clicks. You can be live from start to finish.
Yep.
So you can hit me or Nathan, either one up, and we'll just kind of walk you through it a little bit. It's fun though. To me, it's fun because you get to have, we can have up to 10 people on here, but then you got people in the audience, and if there's a lot of people in the audience and the comments are popping, and you don't have anybody dropping X-rated comments like they were a minute ago, but it's just a lot of fun because it's interactive. You know what I mean? It's cool.
Yeah, I need to do more of that for my commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody, I appreciate y'all for joining us. Brandon, thank you so much, man. I enjoyed it, and we're definitely going to keep in touch.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, Nathan.
All right. Nathan, see you later, man.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.